Hello everybody and welcome to the first, book review of this channel. So again, I'm still kind of like learning how I can do these things which are effective, but I want to go over a book that was very important in my journey, and I think it's kind of a must-have for anybody that has kind of gone on this journey themselves, and that is Raymond Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft. So first of all, since this is Budget Witch, let's go ahead and go over the cost. Now I bought this at a bookstore for, it was kind of expensive. Let's see. It says only $17.95. That's what it was back in the day. Nowadays, I haven't really seen this book in any of my local bookstores recently. I think that's due to the popularity of neo-paganism. However, on Amazon, you can find a used copy of the book for about $20 and a new copy of the book for about $33. So it's kind of doubled in price, but it is a massive book. Like, this has a lot of material. It's very large, as you can see by my hand. Like, it's just a very big book. It has a lot of resources in it, so I would say that it's definitely worth the price, at least to begin. And I want you to note that I do have the revised and expanded version. Now, as far as the revised and expanded version, in the book it explains what it is that's different from previous versions, because you can find previous versions of this book for about like $19 or lower, just depending. But really what it is just this adds a lot more images and a lot more diagrams, so that I guess what they say is that the layout's a lot easier. Now, this is kind of done in a workbook kind of style, which means that there are sections at the end of each chapter, which then allow you to like write per assignments. So I think that's one of the things that I like about the book, but we'll go into that in just a minute. So Raymond Buckland, he's a pretty interesting character. He's very influential when it comes to neo-paganism. So he came to the United States in 1962 from Europe, and according to just the research that I've done, and according to his own books, he's supposedly the first person in the United States to admit, like, openly that he was a practitioner of Wicca and witchcraft. He was the high priest of Gardnerian Wicca, which was created by Gerald Gardner, who's considered the father of modern Wicca. So if you have time, go ahead and research Gerald Gardner. A lot of that's covered in this book as well, though. And, but Raymond Buckland, he then created his own tradition of Seax Wicca, and that had a focus of more like Anglo-Saxon paganism. And Seax actually allowed self-dedication and solitary practice with no secrecy, whereas a lot of Wicca back in the day, of course, practiced with secret writings and just, passing it on from one person to another in secret just because they didn't want to experience the backlash. But this book, I think the original book came out in 2002. I'm not really sure when this one actually came out. I'm sure I could look in here and figure it out, but yeah. Also, just gotta blur out my name there. But anyways, the stains in the book are from incense, because I was using incense as a bookmark back in the day, because I'm kind of stupid. So as we open this up, of course, we have like a bunch of the resources. There's a lot of shameless plugs in here. The revised and expanded version, 2006 is when it came out. There's a lot of plugs in here. Raymond Buckland has written a ton of books. He also has tarot kits and videos and different things. So if we go into the index here, or the table of contents, you can see just what you'd be getting into. So the history and philosophy of witchcraft, that is very important for anybody getting into this sort of thing. Anytime you're approaching any sort of path, you definitely should be doing your research on it. You should be looking at where it came from, the importance of it, especially nowadays. I'm not really sure, but I have heard that, a lot of places are banning, like a lot of online communities ban the word Wicca. Supposedly there is like a whole debate on what's considered a closed practice and what's not considered a closed practice. So definitely just research is very, very important. So just knowing the history of witchcraft, where it came from, how it developed, its modern incarnation, all of that's very important, and all of that is like covered in here. And I remember reading it back in the day that it was super, super detailed. Lesson 2, again, beliefs. Now, because this kind of follows more along the lines of Gardnerian witchcraft and Seax witchcraft, which is, of course, Anglo-Saxon, there is the general belief of the horned god and the triple goddess. So, if you are someone that wants to practice with other deities, or any deities at all, because that's not actually needed, if you are someone that wants to work with other deities, this is still helpful, as it kind of, goes over just the basic belief of the Lord and the Lady, which is very common in a lot of practices. But just know that you do not have to stick to the book 100%. That's just not necessary. So this kind of goes into the common belief of the Lord and the Lady. I know that back in the day, I was looking into Celtic stuff, and the coven that I was looking at worshipped Ishtar, and I know I'm going to say the name wrong, but Cernunnos or Cernunnos, and that was what they actually worshipped. But again, just depending on what denomination and what type of practice, this is all going to be different. But this is still really good to know. Now, this is the really important part, is tools, clothing, and names. So tools are very important in a practice, but again, witchcraft in general is all about the will, and that's what this channel is all about, is just knowing that you don't have to have every single tool that, everybody else is going to say that you need. However, what's really cool with this is that it doesn't just tell you what tools that you need, it actually teaches you how to make them. So it'll teach you how to make your own knife, it'll give you like a pattern to show you how to make your own robe, it'll talk about, the colors and how to set up your altar. And so while it is more strict in its structure, again, you do not have to follow everything in this. This just gives you like a basic guideline, and it kind of like lets you experiment with what you think is good, what you think is not good, what's comfortable for you, what's not comfortable for you, etc. Now, again, the getting started, this is just your basics, casting a circle, the rites of passage, casting a circle, self-dedication, and coven initiation. And this is sort of like where I started to get kind of hung up on this, because this book does focus very heavily on covens. Now, I'm in a lot of like online covens, but as far as like in-person covens, because again, there's a debate on whether or not a coven has to be in person or not. I'm technically not part of any local coven, and I have kind of been forced in a way to be a solitary practitioner. Now, it's not necessarily because I want to be, it's more just because of my location, and the covens that are close to me. The closest one is about an hour away, and they only practice on days where I actually work, and my job is one of those where I cannot get away for that time, and they're all about participation. So I would never be able to even participate in the one coven that's closest to me. That would make sense for me. So while this does focus very heavily on covens, you can actually just refit these for solitary practitioner stuff. Raymond Buckland does have a book for the solitary witch, because towards the end of his life, he was a solitary practitioner, despite him having started many covens and run them for many years. So if you are a solitary practitioner, you can still get a lot out of this book. So don't be deterred by the word coven, or the fact that it basically expects you to be part of a coven. Also, don't be pressured to create your own if you're not feeling ready for that sort of thing. Covens are a lot of work, and they take a lot of dedication. And as someone that actually tried to start my own at one point, or was like looking into the prospect of starting my own, it's definitely not something that you just want to do on a whim. Like I said, it's a lot of dedication, it's a lot of organization, and it's a lot of planning. But definitely don't let this word dissuade you. There's still tons of things that you can learn from this, and there's tons of things that can be refitted and used, just basically remastered, reworked for the solitary practitioner. You just have to kind of play with it a little, and again, it's all about what feels right to you. So now we get into the covens and the rituals. Again, like I said, it's all very coven heavy, but the rituals is something that's very important. The Sabbats, those are very, very important for anybody that wants to get into the Wheel of the Year. And again, it goes into their history and what dates they are and the different rituals for them. I actually just used one of these for Ostara, and again, I kind of reworked it so that I could just do it on my own since I don't have a coven. And so I took out some stuff and I used some stuff and I kind of did some of the rituals and I didn't do other parts of it. So again, this stuff's all very strict, but you do not have to be that strict because it's all about how you feel and just what you think is right and what you think you don't need. The meditation and dream section, and the minor Sabbats and stuff, the stuff like this stuff was like super interesting to me, mostly because I do have a dream journal, and not everybody does this, of course, but I think that meditation is very important in practice, so these types of meditations were very helpful. As far as the dreams, it does give you some basic dream symbology, which, like I said, for many years I kept a dream journal, and so I used this a lot. I used this as reference to what my dreams were meaning, what sort of messages that they were giving me, and that's what I kind of like about this book, because it touches on everything. So you've got meditation, you've got dreams, you've got the rituals, you have divination, you have channeling, which goes into minor spirit work, herbalism, and etc. So he kind of touches on all the basics here. He doesn't go deep into the advanced stuff because he really wants you to buy his other books, which focus more on the advanced stuff. So he kind of just gives you a taste of what these things are, and it kind of gives you an idea of what you like working with, what you don't like working with, etc. So we have basic magic, power of the written word, which kind of comes down to your own spell crafting and things like that. It comes down to different languages as well. You have Ruined and Angelic, which I think was really neat. I did use Angelic for a while, but I'm really bad at memorizing scripts, so I do still use this from time to time for reference, especially when I'm writing in Angelic or if I feel like I need to write in Angelic. So that was another thing that I really liked. And that's why it's just underlined with like a little circle, because young me was very weird. Because I had this book when I was 15, and like I said, this is what really started everything, so I've had this book for about 17 years now. So again, we get a healing section, and the construction of rituals and that sort of thing, and then we actually do have a section on solitary witches, which I think is kind of funny, because up until this point, this has all been very coven-based, and now we have the solitary witch part, which again, he did write a book on solitary practitioning, so that is something that you could get into as well. So, and then finally, we have the ending of the book, which kind of goes into the different denominations. Again, witchcraft in Wicca is all over the place. You have people that follow Greek gods and goddesses, Egyptian gods and goddesses. Nowadays, there's even people that, they're called, techno-witches or something like that. And they actually follow, like, AIs that have found a certain sense of, or that have become a certain, they've become divine in some way. So I think that's very interesting. So you're going to find something for everyone. Again, witchcraft can either be a religion, or it can actually be a syncretic lifestyle. And syncretic is where you take multiple pieces of truth, and you kind of just put them all together. So, like, for me, I do force realism and I do witchcraft, and those blend together to kind of create my personal truth. So, witchcraft, again, can be mixed. I've seen Christian witches, I've seen Satanist witches, I've seen all sorts of witches. So, your craft does not have to solely be based on this. You don't have to pick, like I said, Seax Wicca, Gardnerian Wicca. You don't have to just pick one and say, well, I guess this suits me. You're allowed to blend and mix as you feel is necessary to create your personal truth, because again, this was meant to be syncretic. So this kind of just goes into the different denominations that you can find, and maybe in that you'll find something that actually fits you. So I do like that this section is here, because for someone that may not know like what to look into, or might not know like what fits them, this does go into the more popular ones that you can actually find in the United States. And it can kind of help guide you to learning more about specific denominations. And again, there's the appendix, music and chants, recommended reading list, which is very nice. I do like when authors recommend other readings. Raymond Buckland tends to recommend himself a lot, but I mean, his stuff is highly recommended as is in the community, so, because again, he was kind of seen as one of the fathers of Wicca, along with Gerald Gardner, so that is something to be considered as well. And then lastly, you have the index. So again, this book is really, really good. It does have diagrams, it does have images. I have to be careful with what I'm showing here. Okay, so, because there is some minor nudity in the book, but it does have pictures, it shows you the various tools, it even shows you how to construct your own helmet so that you can have a ritual helmet similar to this. So it just has a lot of good things within the book. Again, it goes into runes and what certain things mean. It goes into the various alphabets that might be used for ritual crafting. It even goes into crafting your own sigils and your magical name, and thus the symbol for your magical name. So if you're just getting into witchcraft for the first time ever, then, you know, this is very helpful. And then you have these sections at the end here where it goes into, it's a workbook style. So it'll give you some assignments, and then it'll basically just, you know, it'll give you some questions here, like how did you prepare yourself for your initiation, and then it'll just ask you questions, and it expects you to fill out these sections here. And I really like the workbook style because, again, I like that it's more involved. As you can see, I did not actually fill out the book itself, and that's because I decided to buy a Book of Shadows and just kind of start there. I didn't really want to mark the book too much. I'm not as, I guess I'm not as picky about that nowadays. I'm not so picky now. It's just, I knew that I was going to kind of grow and change, and so I didn't want to have to look back at these answers of a younger me that may not have answered as professionally as I would have wanted, or as well as I would have wanted. So again, we just have a typical altar setup. We have the different uses of like how to enter and leave a circle and that sort of thing. So again, it's just very, very helpful. I like the diagrams, I like the pictures, I like that it gives you a lot of inspiration, and it's just very, very detailed. So if you are looking for a book about witchcraft, I think that this is a very good one, even if it's just to learn. And again, it's more of a book just to kind of give you a direction. It kind of gives you the chance to look into different things and decide what you think is more meant for you. It kind of gives you an idea of what you're interested in and what direction to look, and it kind of just guides you, okay? So this isn't like the definitive guide, but it kind of just inspires you. It gives you a starting point, and it kind of just leads you to different places that might be more interesting to you. So overall, I would, if I had to give this book a score, I would honestly give it a 5 out of 5. Back in the day, I might have given it a lesser score because of the heavy focus on covens, but again, nowadays, I'm not so, I guess I've grown a lot, and I realized that even though it does focus on covens, it still has amazing information that you can then repurpose for solitary practice. So, definitely I would give this a 5 out of 5. Very easy to understand, very well written. Again, I love the diagrams. And I love the fact that it's kind of a workbook style, so it's very involved. It's not just read and then do on your own time. It's not just read and then try and figure it out. It's more just read and then work through it and then try and do the thing. And again, it's just something that you can keep coming back to. And especially if you're doing shadow work or if you're doing any sort of self-reflection or anything like that, if you do tend to write in the book, you can look back at what you wrote in the past and you can see how you've grown. And again, that's just something that's really helpful. But anyways, that was just this book. I do have a ton more. If you liked this book review and you want to see more in the future, just let me know. As always, feel free to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. If you have a book that you would like me to cover, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. And if you want to see more workbook type things, I do have a couple more as well, and we can go over those. I think next time I'll be covering Teen Witch, which is one of my least favorite books, but I will have to look through it again. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for your continued support on this channel, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Blessed be.